So skill regression is pretty much what it kind of sounds like, is that you start to lose or regress in these skills or in a certain skill, and you start to kind of go back in your ability to do those things. Now, skill regression isn't inherently like a neurodivergent thing. Anybody can experience skill regression at any point and stage of their life. So, for example, and I'm kind of reading off of a little article that I found online, and I'll make sure to include a screenshot of that. But they give a good example talking about if, like, for instance, you stop playing the guitar and you put it aside for a little bit, and then of course when you try to go back to it, you find that you're not able to play it as well. But in terms of what this looks like for neurodivergent people, if you're late diagnosed, like I am, and a lot of people who are late diagnosed tend to realize how much they've been masking. And once you see that you've been masking in certain areas of your life and you no longer kind of want to do that and you start to unmask, you see that you start to regress in those skills that you normally would have been able to do when you were masking. Like, I'll give a few personal examples to hopefully give you an idea of what it could look like for a late diagnosed person with autism and ADHD. So ever since I got my diagnosis, I've definitely tried to start unmasking, and one of the ways that I've seen myself kind of regress in skills is my ability to tolerate social situations. So I was already pretty bad at masking it, but I definitely pushed myself in more social situations to be presentable, to look like I'm having fun, to also go to social situations that I already knew that I didn't have the capacity to try to pretend and mask. But now at this point, I am very aware of how sensitive I am to social situations and how much more I am becoming burnt out with any kind of social situation. So for example, at work, I have increased my one-to-one meetings or personal meetings with my employees. But since I've done that, I have noticed that I have been a lot more burnt out in those weeks compared to the weeks that I don't have as many meetings, and my recovery to be getting out of that burnout has been a lot longer and harder to do. So there's a number of things that can contribute to that skill regression. It's that I have a full-time job now. I didn't have that before. I used to balance like 3 different jobs along with going to graduate school at the same time. And somehow I had all the energy to do that. But then during that time, I was also living with my parents. I wasn't having to worry about rent and all these other responsibilities that I now have to worry about now as an adult and independently as an adult. So there's a lot of areas that can contribute to your skill regression, especially if you are neurodivergent, so more responsibilities, and then seeing where in your life that you really don't want to spend as much energy in, so that you can maintain the responsibilities and things that have more priority over your life. But of course, because you're no longer doing those things, you're practicing and continuously putting more effort into the skills that you had before, whether that is your ability to socialize, or whether that is your ability to tolerate certain sensitivities to things, certain foods or whatever. Even those ways can kind of be skills or certain preferences that you didn't have issues with before. You'll start to see that you have more issues with those things now because you're no longer trying to uphold those skills or continuously practicing in them. And it's not bad that we kind of regress in their areas, and it doesn't also mean that you can't somehow become at the same level or get that skill again. It's just more that because we have so little spoons already as neurodivergent people, our energy really isn't gonna be balanced. That doesn't mean that because you no longer want to be a social or you can't go back to the kind of like effort and energy that you had before in social situations. It just means that you're gonna have to find different ways to get back to that level, but still maintain the balance of conserving your energy and spoons to what's comfortable for yourself.